So, hi class, good morning. I just have been enjoying reading your discussion boards, and I will be getting to your videos this week. Please know that it will take me some time, not to get too worried if it's getting to the end of the week and I haven't finished. It's just a lot to watch. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. We're going to be talking about the initial and transitional phases of group. You know, the initial phase of group is very new, can be a lot of anxiety and stress and fear of vulnerability, fear of sharing very deeply personal things with strangers, wanting to make sure they communicate effectively. All those kinds of things can be expected by group members initially. Creating trust. We've talked about this a lot. It's up to us to create the trust. We facilitate that. So again, establishing good boundaries and establishing confidentiality, why that's important. You know, what the expectations are, making sure that if people want this to be a group that is able to grow together, we have to demonstrate certain behavior so that that we are able to grow, and how that will be cultivated is blank, blank, blank. We just have to be very clear, because people will, if you give them an inch, they'll take a yard kind of situation, and we just got to rein that in from the beginning. Listening with genuine ears, understanding nonverbal behavior, looking at body language when someone shuts down. You can kind of see that in a person, how they withdraw. We can look at how, when other people talk, how people behave, and we can call out on that, which is great. We want to make sure we're demonstrating empathy and respect. And if we do need to confront somebody, which you may, making sure we're doing it in a respectful and caring way. And again, great modeling behavior. We've been talking about that a lot in discussion boards recently. Great way to model behavior. Okay. And making sure, like with our goals, that, you know, if it is going to be a collaborative process, we talk about this together. We talk about this initially. If there's no goals, it might feel like the group has no purpose. And so we want to make sure the group has purpose and design. And we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And again, that will help with building trust. If I know where I'm going, then I can stay on track, versus if I don't know where I'm going, I don't know if I'm which direction we're headed. Is this a good direction, a safe direction, not a safe direction? And we need to make sure we have good direction. Involves the stages of groups that this is the first phase that the group will go through. Tension and conflict could build. This is where you're going to learn group cohesion, learning to work cooperatively, establishing ways of solving problems, and learning to express conflicts openly. Could all happen in the initial stage as everyone's trying to get to know one another, which is ironic, right? Some things, norms, group norms enable a group to attain its goal and can be implicit or explicit. So example of some group norms: sharing meaningful aspects of themselves, expectations of feedback, encouraged to support and challenge others, encouraged to focus on the here and now, not 5 years ago, not 5 years in the future, but right now. This is things to expect as a leader. We want to make sure that the importance of a positive therapist and client relationship makes someone have a better experience. If you have a good experience, like for example, even in a classroom with your professor, with your teacher, when you think of your kids in elementary school, when you've had a good experience with the teacher, you probably tend to thrive more in that environment. When a client has a good example with a good relationship with the therapist, then they will thrive in that situation, which is great. And we want our people to thrive. Okay. If someone is too aggressive in how they're handling a situation, then that could lead to a lack of trust. You never know how that could affect someone deeply, depending on their own history. Things to be mindful of. We are very much modeling all kinds of communication. We're modeling conflict. We are really big examples in a group setting and really do set a tone. So we really have to check in on ourselves that we're doing things how we should. Okay. Get the most from a group experience, building trust, express persistent feelings, self-disclosure, participate fully. This is how we can encourage them. These are the things, if you really want the outcome you want, these are the things you have to be willing to invest. be willing to listen to others, taking in feedback, figuring out different parts of yourself, embrace change, all things that are very hard. But if you're able to be open and to try these things, hopefully as a group member, you're going to get the outcomes that you so gratefully desire. And then leader issues at the initial stage. If you have a co-leader, it can be division of responsibility. Sometimes the structure, how we're opening and closing the session, these could lead to issues. And just making sure, like if you're running into problems, consult, right? Talk to your supervisor, talk to other people maybe who have led the same group, try to figure out whatever the hiccups could be. It could be just the dynamics of this specific group that you're leading. Maybe it's just the personalities that you have in there together. It may really vary, but the thing is to make sure that you're talking about things. If you're noticing some hardships or some struggles, try to figure it out. Don't be too prideful to ask for help. Nobody knows until they know. And you could be leading group for years and have an interesting dynamic in your group, and it changes the whole group feel. And so that's where consultation and talking with others will be really helpful. Now, moving on to the transition stage of group, oops, I lost my screen. The transition stage of group, we want to make sure that that clients are, again, we hope they're not defensive. We hope they're in this stage where we're learning something. We've gotten some sort of norms down. We're navigating this well. They might try to test you a little bit. They may want to play it safe, and there might be a combination of playing it safe and a risk of getting involved. Observe the leader to determine his or her trustworthiness. They really might start testing you just because they feel like, is this person safe? Maybe you remind them of someone in their past. I don't know, whatever it may be. They're really trying to test the waters to see where we stand here in this phase. They're trying to navigate. Do people actually listen to me when I talk? How am I expressing myself? Is it working well? Is my leader demonstrating behavior of a trustworthy, respectful person? All things that could happen in the transition stage, not to be shocked by. Okay. When there is a low level of trust, people aren't going to be as committed. They won't be as personally invested. Maybe they'll hide behind over intellectualizing or these large blanket statements, maybe not really get to actual issues, stay very surface, and maybe not willing to deal with conflict in the group. We see this in all different kinds of settings. When people aren't super committed to a job or to a team or to a group event, you're going to notice more flakiness and not as much cohesiveness in whatever that setting may be. Fears that could happen during this phase. Someone, not afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of losing control, being too emotional, self-disclosure. It's a lot. Talking too much, that's one that, comes up in a lot of different, I don't want to be that one person, being judged, singled out, or rejected, all feel not great feelings. Okay. Guidelines for effective confrontation. Have a rationale for confronting a person, making sure we have a reason. You're confronting because we care. You don't want to have all or nothing statements. Make sure you give them a moment to reflect on what you're saying. Talk more about yourself than the other person. Just really trying to own your feelings and maybe why, what's causing the conflict, things of that nature. All good things to think about when you're going to have to confront, maybe in this phase of group. Okay, so people who want to be difficult and want to pose a threat. So avoid responding with sarcasm. So don't dig down to their level. Try to stay mature about everything. Don't personalize it, right? It may not be about you at all. Try to explore the conflict. State your observations and your hunches. Just don't pretend like it's not happening, but call them out on it. But call them out on it in a mature, caring way. This might be good for this person. They might see, hey, I can't get away with this. And this isn't a healthy way of communication. Great things for someone to learn in a group setting. Problematic styles of behaving in a group, right? Silence, someone who takes over, someone who constantly is telling stories, questioning, giving advice, maybe really showing signs of codependency. They're hostile, acting as if they're better than everybody else, over intellectualizing. They feel like they're like the co-leader, like the group couldn't exist without them. All kinds of problematic behavior that could happen in this phase. Dealing with defensive behavior in a healthy way. So leaders' response should provide encouragement for members. We talk about the sandwich style. Say a positive thing, then maybe something that is an area of growth, then another positive thing, so it's not so harsh. That could be something you could do for a group member to kind of be able to communicate like a need or desire that you may have. Trying to have an open-ended and present things in an invitational manner, all helpful when dealing with these kinds of situations. Okay. You want to make sure like you're open to whatever feedback they have after you give your feedback. Maybe other people may want to participate in the conversation, assuming it applies. All could be helpful. Avoidance, that's a way of not dealing with your problems, right? And so sometimes with that, you want to address what's going on. You can call out avoidance. Let's bring up what's maybe underlying. Don't give up and not indulge in the feelings of frustration or annoyance by someone who is avoiding some issues. A lot of times people avoid because it's so hard to face reality, and that's just been their coping skill for years. So sometimes the avoider may not even realize they're avoiding. But being able to gently kind of tap someone on the shoulder and be like, hey, you're kind of ignoring some things that are pretty important, would be useful and helpful. Okay. Dealing with transference and countertransference. We talked about this a lot within discussion boards, but transference is feelings clients project onto the counselor, which sometimes that could be like, you remind me like my mom or my dad or my brother, my sister, my friend, and then they project that onto you, which has nothing to do with you. Countertransference is when we as the therapist project our unresolved feelings onto the client. And so we want to make sure that we're navigating and treading lightly with some of these situations. They all can be used to benefit the group. However, sometimes when we're making it about us as the clinician, that's when it's problematic. So we want to check our motivations on why we want to confront or why we want to do something or why we're having icky feelings towards someone, because it might have nothing to do with the client and have everything to do with us. And if addressing it is more about us than it is about them, then we need to check ourselves, need to consult, all those kinds of things. If something's going on with the client, it could be an opportunity to work through maybe something hard for them and maybe get some sort of closure or cathartic experience that might help them to move in a positive direction. Doesn't all have to be bad. It's just we have to navigate it well and then navigate it in such a way that we're going to have outcomes we hope and we desire. So that's just something to be mindful of with countertransference and transference. Okay, so co-leader issues. We're not dealing with countertransference, dealing with problem behaviors, challenges to both leaders, meaning sometimes the clients are going to pin you against each other, or you're going to be constantly pinned by clients who are just like kind of poking at you. And maybe if there's some little bit of conflict between you and the other co-leader, if they're witnessing that, they're going to know how to get in between you, kind of like parents and kids. Just be mindful. Okay. You don't want any more issues than you have to. If you're noticing issues with your group leader, please try to work through it outside of the group. Just so you can save face with the group. Maybe if it's an opportunity to like model something, great. If not, figure out like we got to sort this through because we got to be on the same page for this group and how the group is going to run. That's, important. We want to, again, establish trust and a positive atmosphere. And if you and the group, the co-leader, are at each other's throats, that's not a very positive atmosphere. Okay. So here's some information on the initial and transition stage. I hope this is helpful. I hope you notice some of these things from your own groups and your own experience in recording. I look forward to watching your videos. Have a fabulous evening.